Okay, it's 10 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. May the 16th, 2023, and this is Virginia Gas and Oil Board meeting. And we are in the Virginia Energy offices in Big Stone Gap. I would ask everyone to mute or silence your cell phones, and these meetings are being recorded. And I would start the meeting with introductions, and I would begin with Ms. Surratt.
I'm Rita Surratt, public member.
I'm Donnie Ratliff, representing Cole, and serve as your chairman.
I'm Bill Harris, a public member.
Gus Jansen, public member.
Thank you. The
Mary
board
Quillen, public member.
will review the remote attendance resolution for board members that's attending remotely, and we have Ms. Quillen. So all of those that agree to allow Ms. Quillen to participate remotely would indicate when Ms. Gilmer calls the roll.
Mrs. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
and Mr. Jansen.
Yes.
We have that approval. So Ms. Quillen, welcome to the meeting. We have. Oh, we have Willie on here. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I'm on here.
All right, I'm sorry. We have Mr. Cochran is participating remotely, and we need a motion to allow him to participate remotely. And I so move.
I'll second.
Ms. Gilmer?
Ms. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes,
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
and Mr. Jansen.
Yes.
we have approval, so welcome. The board will receive public comments. Do we have anyone online or present? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have a petition for Key Rock Energy LLC for creation of a sealed gob unit and pooling unit KY2, docket number VGOB 23-0516-24, strike that, 4264. All parties interested, please come forward and introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Freddie Mullins, representing Key Rock Energy LLC. Key Rock Energy.
And Ms. Gilmer, do you need to swear in Morgan?
Mr. Pate, you swear and affirm that your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
You may proceed, Mr. Mullins.
Thank you. Mr. Pate, could you please state your name, by whom you're employed, and your job description?
Morgan Payton, employed by Key Rock Energy, geologist.
And Key Rock Energy LLC is authorized to conduct business in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Key Rock has filed a bond with the Department of Energy. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the application, VGOB docket number 23-0516-4264?
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with that application?
Yes.
And this is for a coal bed methane well, is that correct?
Correct.
And is this well located in the North coal bed gas field?
Yes.
And do you know how many acres this proposed unit covers?
186.
All right. Could you explain to the board a little bit about what Key Rock plans to do if this application is granted?
We will drill into the mined out sealed gob area of Deep Mine 41 for the purpose of flaring gas and generating sellable carbon credits.
And that's for generating and marketing carbon tax credits?
Yes, sir.
And what entity are those carbon credits? What market do you transact those in?
The California Air Resource Board governs the protocol of the carbon credit generation, and the credits are sold on an open market.
And what seam of coal is the coal bed methane produced from?
The Jawbone seam.
And this particular proposed unit, has Key Rock obtained leases? You have obtained leases for this entire unit, is that correct?
Yes.
And the owner of the gas is Intervest, is that correct?
Correct.
And how was Intervest informed of this proceeding?
Registered mail.
And has notice with that documentation been filed with this board?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, it has been.
Not on the permit, but
On the application.
yes.
To the best of your knowledge, are there any unknown owners in this unit?
No.
And so Key Rock has 100% of the unit under lease, is that correct?
Yes.
And you know the proposed depth of this well? And what about the estimated reserves for this well?
About 600 MMCF.
And are you familiar with the projected well cost?
Yes, sir.
And there's actually, there's been an exhibit filed with this application, and AFE's been filed, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you remember the estimated dry hole count?
180,000.
And are you asking this board to create a sealed gob drilling unit and to further pool that unit?
Yes,
And in this particular situation, the pooling would be voluntary, is that correct?
correct.
And there's not any escrow requirements because of the voluntary nature of the pool? And are you asking the board to name Key Rock as the operator for this unit?
Yes.
And in your opinion, if the board grants Key Rock's application, would it prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect correlated rights?
Yes.
And that would be our evidence, Mr. Chair.
Any questions from the witness?
Just a couple of questions here. So this one is a 100% leased and it's all interest, so you don't have to address the carbon credits in your application. Is that your position there?
That's our position. This would be like the others that we filed first, not to be confused with Key Rock number 1, which did have those other issues that we worked through.
Right. Okay. Second question is on your reserve estimation, even though there's nobody in this that can voluntarily participate or has any participation rights. Just the way you've been calculating, can you give me some background on your methodology of how you're calculating your reserves for each of these units?
Of course. So there's 2 ways that I could go about this. We have studied all the other projects of this type through EPA data. And it appears to us that a well of this type in the mine produces about 12% of the total gas that the mine emits. And then you take that forward by, that's per year, take that forward by 10 years. The only other way we have to estimate this is to look at similar mines we have in production, active mines with gob areas of similar size and about the same depth. And that's what I did for this one. I have directly compared Deep Mine 41 sealed gob areas to American Eagle, Affinity, Beckley, Pocahontas sealed gob areas, and more or less applied a ratio and calculated that forward for 10 years.
Okay, so this is if I'm correct, this is the 4th unit we will establish within Deep Mine 41. I think we're down KY 1, 2,
Let's see,
4, and 5.
5, 4,
1
1, and 2.
Yes, yes. So they've been varying acreages, and when I was just trying to relate, maybe oversimplifying it a little bit, this acreage is about 486 acres with 600 MCF, which gives you about 1.2 MCF per acre calculation. And this would be the lowest one that we've seen so far. We started out with one that was a lot larger acreage. It had a lot larger reserve estimate at about 2.6. So we're twice as much in this unit as we are opposed to a unit basically right next door to it. Is there a reason for that variation?
The unit being number 1.
The biggest one would have been KY4.
KY4. We know from internal discussions with Paramount that some of these sealed areas are at least partially flooded. KY4 is definitely one of them. The sealed gob area for the other large unit, for Key Rock number 1 well, I have no idea about the flooding, but I do know that that unit is immediately adjacent to their impoundment area in the mine, where they're disposing of water. I tried to apply a calculation based on flooding. So if the mine tells me 30% of this gob area is flooded, I don't have the resources to go in and define the flood area, but I can say, well, that cuts your reserves down by 30%.
So that's part of your methodology. And that's what I was getting at there. One more question. You presented this map, I think, in all the applications it's a map on page 34. It's the large map that shows the entire mine boundary. It's got the yellow and gray colored in it. That map, can you give me some background on what the purpose of this map is for? It doesn't really, I don't think it's referenced anywhere in the application. And the legend just identifies the inside Deep Mine 41 and outside Deep Mine 41. I'm not sure what the gray colors, you see this map here, this talking about.
That map right there is an early Intervest acreage map.
Okay.
That was included in the Intervest lease. However, after running title, Intervest in that early lease map did not exhibit everything they had correctly.
So does this map have any value in the application?
Whenever, and I can answer that, Mr. Jansen, whenever I was first, filing these applications, I was encouraged to file any type of mind maps that we had.
Sure.
And so that's why we've included it out of an abundance of caution.
Understand. And I was just trying to understand what the gray represented versus the yellow, since it wasn't addressed in your.
We will have discussions. We have one more silk gob area we would like to bring in front of the board. That title has been finished. And we will have discussions with Intervest about revising that lease map to bring their acreage forward. And we've seen that at D-Line 26 too.
It would be, what would be useful, this may be the last one you're doing here for a while, but to maybe do a composite map that showed all 5 units within the mine boundary. Oh, this map would have been a good one to do that on. So we could get a representation of where they're at individually in relationship to each other.
Yes, sure.
Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And Mr. Mullins, we have a revised exhibit I
Yes, sir.
that was submitted.
Yes, sir.
You want to explain?
The original exhibit I prepared it, I went through the department's interactive map and pulled the information from that. On the items that were changed, there wasn't actually any information available on the interactive map. It would show the well, but it did not give the file number. And so Ms. Gilmer was good enough to have staff look at that and give me the additional information, and then we filed that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do you have anything further, Mr. Mullins?
No, sir.
The board acts on a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Gilmer, will you poll the board?
Mrs. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Abstain.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
and Mrs. Quillen.
Yes.
Oh, and Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
Thank you. The application is approved as presented, Mr. Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The next item on the docket is Key Rock Energy will update the board on the status of the petition and permit application for existing Lower Banner carbon credit associated with D-Mine 26. This item was continued from the March 2023 board hearing. You may proceed, Mr. Mullins.
Mr. Payne has, do you have some information to present to the board this morning?
I do.
Concerning the item on D-Mine 26, or on the well of D-Mine 26?
I do. As of about a week and a half ago, we are standing at 80% complete on title across the entire Silk Gob area. The map I gave you, the red outline is the Silk Gob area that we're pulling from in D-Mine 26. Those portions of that gob area shaded yellow are under lease by Intervest. The portions that are shaded blue are, to the best of my ability, mapping what has been completed so far. But I will caution the board, I'm not a surveyor. So there are some inaccuracies in my mapping. However, on an acreage basis, we are at least 80% complete with title, and I suspect title will finish in the next month. I do not know if I will be able to bring a petition or creation of gob unit in front of the board in June for this, because it's taking my surveyor quite a while to decline this acreage. But I do suspect that the title work will be finished by the June meeting.
So you're suggesting we put this on the docket in July?
I think we could probably have this completed by July.
And we're hopeful. I need to get a date from Ms. Gilmer. What will be the cutoff date for the July meeting? I'm actually going to be gone for 12 days out of the country. I will not be answering my cell phone during that time. So we're going to try to have it filed for the July meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't anticipate paying any royalties on this project at least until November or December. And as you can see from the acreage tallies, Intervest is less than a 50% owner for this Silver Gulf area.
If I understand correctly, you've already made application for the carbon credits on this site with the production you've done so far.
Yes, sir.
You had approval for that.
We started operating on this site under a letter from the previous director, which I believe Butch Langford. And yes, this site has generated credits. I believe we have paid to date at least 2 royalty checks to Intervest, perhaps 3.
But not to any of the other unknown people.
No, sir.
So can you give some background on how much production you've made out of this since you started and what those carbon credits, the revenues associated?
This particular project is very cyclical in nature. The mine tends to produce in 4 or 5 month spurts, and then it'll shut itself down. There'll just be no methane. We shut it in for a few months, it'll kick back on and produce well. I want to, and this is all going from memory, and I've been away from this project in the production sense for over a year. I want to say that the mine has generated between 40 and 60,000 credits per reporting period. The credits have sold, I would say, on average for $16 to $17.50 per credit. And so that would put us somewhere in the neighborhood of 800,000. The royalty check, Intervest 12.5% off of that would going from, but I'm non-calculated math, 70, 80,000 per
Yeah, that's fine.
per year.
I just want to get a sense of how this was going, because this is really the only one you've got to this stage of any of your projects at this point.
Correct. We are also concurrently running title on other silt gob areas at Deep Mine 26. This mine is very gassy, but the nature of this particular gob area, you can see our well at the very bottom of the map. We're pulling from the very top of the slope. And so it's just contaminated. When the mine feels like pushing gas to us, it's a good project. When we try to pull gas, what we end up doing is pulling air into the slope.
So this one's I guess, considerably different from the sealed dogs that we're doing at Deep Mine 41. This is an unsealed large foundry, correct? Or parts are well sealed.
My understanding is they simply took large concrete blocks and stacked them up in the slope and pushed dirt against it. So it is sealed in the sense that you can't go under it, but as far as air is concerned, it can.
So within the underground mine area, are there distinctive areas that you can define
Yes,
as a unit going
Yes.
forward? That's how you come up with this. I was trying to understand how that works.
These,
Not knowing all the details of the mining, so
yes, this unit is based solely on the underground seals.
that they have in place at the end of the mining.
Yes.
Okay, but we can address other things on that when we get the final application. You can maybe update us a little more detailed on the history of what's taken place up to that point.
Yes, I can.
Back that when that application goes forward.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Gilmer, when we have exhibits handed out in the meeting and then we have revisions handed out in the meeting, is there any way that we can share those on the screen so that those that's calling in have an opportunity to see those documents?
Be able to do that for the ones that are submitted prior to hearing. Those that are submitted here today I would have to be able to scan them ahead of time so I could show.
So we just need the operators to inform us if they're going to offer any revised exhibits or new exhibits. So you can scan them in and then we can share them on the screen. I think we need to do that going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Do you have anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The board received an update on division activities from staff. Do we have any updates?
Not have anything new.
We'll entertain a motion to approve the April 2023 minutes. If everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes,
Motion made.
we have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Ms. Gilmore, will you hold the board, please?
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mrs. Quillen,
I'll abstain because I was not in on that meeting.
okay, and Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for attending.